Thank you for having me. I'm Holly Richardson, and I am a digital marketing and customer experience transformation specialist. Over the past several years, I've helped companies discover and deliver their customer and business ambitions in the US, London, England, Madrid, Spain, Germany, and Dubai in the Middle East, where I am currently based. From large multinationals in financial services and consumer goods, as well as for digital agency startups on accelerated growth trajectories. Today, I'm going to tell you of a time 2 years ago when I introduced the concept of customer experience management to my company. When I introduced CX management to the company, things really started off fantastically. At that time, I was leading digital marketing transformation throughout the Middle East, Egypt, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka. And despite the great progress that we made in the initial years, I sensed something was missing. As I researched more in the digital transformation space and spoke to peers in other industries who are on the same trajectory, it quickly became clear that customer centricity, and not just customer centricity, but customer experience management was that missing link that would tie our transformation agenda together into something that was more meaningful, more impactful, and more sustainable. But it seemed that digital transformation was dictating the experience that customers were having with us, when it should rather be the other way around. So then I went on this wonderful and exciting journey where I strategically influenced key stakeholders from the regional leadership team all the way up to the global executive suite to ensure a common understanding of what CX is and what CX means for our company, and to ensure that CX was firmly on the global strategic agenda. At the same time, I rallied up CX champions from the operational level to join me on the journey. In other words, I employed influencing tactics from two angles, from both the top down as well as from the bottom up. With this momentum, we did a load of customer research. We mapped customer journeys. We used that insight to co-create the CX vision and strategy, ensuring it was closely tied to business strategy and our brand promises. We gained even more momentum when we tied our people to the strategy through interactive co-creation workshops, making it clear to everyone in the business what our customer strategy meant for them in their day-to-day jobs. We formed a CX governance squad to ensure that our program moved and stayed on track. We also designed a CX measurement framework and launched a basic CX training program in order to give everyone a baseline understanding on what CX is, and also so that they understand the key competencies required to drive demonstrable change over the long term. And now, this very same CX strategy is informing and leading our digital transformation agenda. You see, it came full circle, which was an amazing thing to witness. And better yet, it not only started to inform digital marketing transformation, but it started to inform business transformation as well. Really exciting stuff here. And this was done in just under 2 years, which is a short amount of time when you consider that CX transformation is a long game. But then I found that with all this excitement around CX and the various teams across the world starting to do their own CX journey mapping exercises, I observed that teams started piling on CX projects. CX improvement ideas were sprouting up and spreading like wildfire. Often these projects had conflicting stakeholder interests, limited budgets, and constrained resources. All of the people who were implementing these CX improvements were double-hatting in their day jobs. You see, we didn't have a dedicated CX team due to where we were on the CX maturity scale. These challenges got even tougher with COVID, where we had even more conflicting stakeholder interests, even more limited budgets, and more constrained resources. And yet, the list of CX projects seemed to just keep growing. As they say, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And in some cases, so is the road to hellish customer experience. As Rick Reppe once said, as a CX professional, we might have 1,000 projects you could do, 100 projects you should do, and 10 projects you can do. I really love this saying because it's so true. So we had to regroup and rein things in very fast. We needed a way of deciding which CX ideas to work on, and importantly, which to say no to. Because by not saying no, we were spreading our resources too thinly across too many initiatives. And we had the real risk of putting our entire CX program into jeopardy, meaning everything that we had been working so hard for over the past 2 years could go down the drain because we were heading towards failing to live up to expectations, both internally and externally. The worst outcome would be ultimately not meeting our business's expectation on what CX can deliver. And if that happened, we would lose that hard-earned and hard-to-sustain executive commitment. And as we all know, CX programs don't go far without genuine executive commitment. So it's crucial that we met the expectations that we set internally on what CX can deliver for our business. And spreading ourselves too thin also put us at the risk of not living up to our customers' expectation, which we all know is just bad news. So what did we do to stop us from overpromising and under-delivering on our CX program? Well, we followed 3 main steps. Step 1, we developed a prioritization framework which we would use to score each CX project. It was absolutely key for us to make sure that this was extremely simple. When working in a large multinational, highly matrixed organization, simpler really is better, or else it simply won't stick. Now, there are a lot of different ways to prioritize your CX improvement initiatives. But ultimately, we had to select the ways that spoke most loudly to our executives and adjust the weightings accordingly. No matter what, we included both impact on the customer and impact on our financial performance, because this intersection point is critical. We then layered on top of that strategic alignment and our ability to execute. So it was a little bit art, a little bit science, but it was always a mix of these elements. Here is an example of how you can apply this in a very simple and structured way. Now, this isn't ours. I took this from My Republic, but we followed a very similar methodology. In this example, they used a simple visual approach, just like we did, that ranks CX initiatives along 3 key parameters: impact, effort, and experience. Each initiative is ranked on a scale of 1 to 10 and displayed visually. Now, you can take the table and plot them on a prioritization matrix like this. It's an example using the table from the previous slide. Just like other strategic prioritization matrices, you would use this to help you prioritize what to work on immediately, what to start to work on as it has a long-term strategic impact, and what to ignore. Here is another way that you can map your priorities. On the left corner, you have high-value projects that your company and your team is in a good position to execute. The advice here is to action these as priority. On the upper right quadrant, you have high-value projects that are hard for you and your team to execute. Advice here is to understand what is limiting you and remove these barriers. On the lower left quadrant, you have low-value CX projects that are pretty easy for your company to execute. So the advice here is to action these opportunistically. Low-value projects that are really difficult to implement, well, naturally you should just discard these. Now, what value is to you depends on the scoring model that you choose for your business. Now that we had a clear framework for making choices, it's about sharing it across the organization to help the respective stakeholders assess their own CX projects. This framework really helped us to be consistent with our communications and to be diligent with saying no. Having a clear framework for making decisions helped us to manage expectations. Managing internally was often really difficult, as we had to tussle between execs who really just wanted the shiny object stuff. So being able to show them how some of these shiny object initiatives ranked on the prioritization framework really helped to make the conversation much easier. Step 3. At this point is when we used Agile methodology to execute on our priorities. Now, this is not to be confused with Agile CX. Agile CX is extremely useful when your CX program is mature. However, we were not quite at that stage yet. So instead, we applied Agile methodology to our CX priorities, especially because most of our CX improvement areas were focused on digital touchpoints and experiences, for which Agile methodology lends itself really well. And what I like about Agile and Scrum is that it creates an iterative test and learn environment that has its roots in design thinking, and it also has a proven track record in digital experience development. For example, here is a customer journey map. Again, this isn't ours. I grabbed it from CXD Labs, just as an example, but it is very similar to ours. On the CX journey maps, you have the context of the customer, which include details such as their overall segment, behavior, actions, and overall potential opportunities. You have the stages of the journey, the core objectives of the customer and the touch points they use, the steps taken by the customer throughout their journey, and you also have their sentiment. Now, how this translates into Agile for us is the context of the customer provides development teams an appreciation of the customer and our industry. The journey stages provide categorization for a number of potential stories, and we use this as a theme. The core objectives of the customer and their touch points are used as epics, and the results form user stories. All touch points are also represented, which provide context for integration teams. And customer sentiment provides guidance on the MVP for the iteration. Now, one more very important thing to note is step 0. Step 0 is ensuring that you have the critical basics in place before you start your prioritization. For example, if you don't have a CX strategy, if you haven't mapped any journeys, or aligned any key moments to focus your change management initiatives around, and if you don't have an effective governance structure in place, then you're highly likely to underdeliver on your CX program. So critical is that you have a solid CX foundation in place first. So in summary, in order to not overpromise and underdeliver, you need to set the right expectations and then be sure you meet, or better yet, exceed them. And in order to do this, you need to know where you're going to have a strong foundation in place. Develop a clear prioritization framework that empowers your CX champions with a rationale for saying yes, or for saying no to projects that don't fit the criteria, the priority criteria. Once you have developed the categories and the criteria, then you need to share the tool across the organization in a clear and simple way. And make sure it is very well communicated. And finally, you need to have a structured way of acting on the priorities once you know what they are. Thank you. I hope you found my journey helpful. And if you have any builds to our prioritization approach, or to share any learnings of your own, please reach out to me on LinkedIn. I would love to hear from you. Thank you.